Before we get into the movie proper, you guys want to talk about some of the trailers that were in it, some of the new stuff we saw?
The only thing I think is worth mentioning is I finally know what the hell The Secret Life of Pets is about.
Yeah.
Like, they finally dropped the trailer on us, and I'm like, oh, yeah. I'm somehow less interested.
Yeah, it looks like an okay, but pretty...
Wasn't this the plot of the Garfield movie?
Yes.
Yes.
Like,
Fuck.
beat for beat.
But with less Black Eyed Peas. They're not going to play the same Black Eyed Peas song 6 times.
Unless Bill Murray. But we've got the Jungle Book for that.
The Jungle Book movie seems interesting.
It seems really good.
I'm still not totally sold on the animals. Like, it works in a trailer. I don't know if it's going to work feature length. But
I just like how different that is. Because it's, I mean, obviously, especially with the movie we're talking about today, when you want to personify a non-person thing, some stylization has to come into it. But, like, these guys are just like, nah, we're just going to render these animal-ass animals and then make Bill Murray come out. I mean, you know what? They got balls. I'm sold. Let me see what you got.
Hey, you Life of Pi jerk spent all your time just on one tiger. Here's like a tiger and a panther and a bear and Christopher Walken as an orangutan.
As a gigantic extinct orangutan. And because
he's so big.
Do you guys know the reason they did that?
No.
Because I mean, the movie is set in a specific location, like I think somewhere in India, I forget. And
well, I know that much.
Yeah, the book just has him as a regular orangutan, but he didn't do his homework. There's no orangutans in India, so they were like, "How are we going to get around this?" And they found out that there was like an ancient species, like long extinct, of like giant fuck off orangutan that lived there. So they were like, "Okay, what if this guy King Louis somehow he survived through like way longer than anybody thought his species did, and he's like the last one ever, and that's why he's like the king." Because
he was the only orangutan in the movie. The rest are just regular monkeys.
Yeah,
I am curious to see how they update it from the original because
it kept looking like he was gonna sing Bare Necessities. he seemed like he wanted to. Baloo.
No, I don't mind Bare Necessities. I'm talking about like Rudyard Kipling.
Rudyard Kipling's racist ass.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's
weird exoticization of the Indian jungle.
That's probably long gone because this is still Disney, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, then they're not gonna. They've made those mistakes before.
Also, the ending of that movie.
I don't know how it ends.
He basically is like, I want to stay in the jungle. And then he meets the first girl he's ever seen in his life, and she sings this sad song about how, I'm going to get the water, and then I'm going to marry a guy, and then my daughter's going to get the water, and that's what my life's going to be. And then it ends.
And then they made like a VHS sequel.
Also, maybe the plot will be more coherent, because wasn't it mostly a series of vignettes?
Yeah, because it was small stories that he would like publish individually and then then published all in one volume.
Yeah, there's a lot of room for improvement in the original Jungle Book. You know, it had its merits, but that could definitely be tightened up. And I think that's something to look out for. We also got a trailer for Finding Dory. Did you get that at your theater, Tooch?
Yeah, I need to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, like I've seen that trailer before.
Okay, see, I hadn't seen it before. Like it wasn't in front of Kung Fu Panda, so it's new to me.
I need it.
It looks like it's very much following the structure of the first movie, which is to say a series of set pieces as they get to where they're going, which is fine. I had a buddy at work who's like, maybe there's a meta-narrative that they're assuming that the audience has terrible memory and they're just going to reshoot the movie. And, like, that's funny, but, like, they're not going to do that. You know what?
No.
One thing
I've seen Finding Nemo more than I think any other movie.
Yeah.
Not by choice. It just happened that way.
Yeah. One thing I noticed as I watched the trailer a second time, I think they have the opportunity, and the tone of the trailer implied that they're going to do this. They might go to some Blackfish territory. Because she's in an aquarium.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's probably just going to be a bigger version of the dentist aquarium, where it's like, oh, we're fishing, we're in a tank, this sucks.
I mean, they might elevate it a little bit.
Yeah. One thing that would be interesting, though, is that those guys definitely had to go to an aquarium to learn how to draw the fish. So then the aquarium guys are like, I let you into my house. We broke bread, and this is how you repay my kindness.
Well, I know they,
Blackfished again.
When they did the first Finding Nemo, they actually went to the Great Barrier Reef.
I thought you were going to say a dentist's office.
No. I mean, probably. They're Pixar. They go everywhere.
The company insurance is bad. We all got to go on the same day.
Yeah, they made all the animators go scuba diving in the Great Barrier Reefs. It was like a requirement. Like, you can't animate these fish if you don't know what fish look like.
I'm picturing John Lasseter with scuba gear and then a Hawaiian shirt over it.
Yes.
That's how they even came up with the idea to do that crazy underwater lighting. They wouldn't have known to do that if they didn't actually, study underwater.
Yeah, the lighting is probably the most impressive thing about that movie when you look at it from, filmmaking bullshit perspective.
Yeah, from a technical perspective.
Yeah. Like, for Monsters, Inc., it was the hair and Boo's, the fabric of Boo's shirt. And then for Incredibles, it was hair again, but longer hair.
Also, in Incredibles, it was more like we have a full human cast. When they up to that point, they've always kind of been reprehensive about having too many people because they weren't that good at it up until then.
Yeah, there's always been technical advancements in all those movies.
Yeah.
So that's trailers. There was no short in front of this movie, which is interesting, but I don't know this for a fact, but all the pieces fit together. The movie had a runtime of 1 hour and 48 minutes, which is very long for an animated movie and very long for a kid's movie.
Yeah.
It's not so much that, it would have been more work for the animators, because it would have been a different team of people, but increasing the runtime further means fewer showings per day. Mm-hmm. So by skipping out on the short, they can make more money off of the movie. It's something I learned when watching the Special Features for Nightmare Before Christmas. There was a deleted scene of Oogie Boogie dancing around for 8 seconds, which they said they cut because it brought them right over the line of not having another showing per day.
Wow.
So for this, it was we don't have to do a ton of extra work that is going to be vastly overshadowed by this movie, because they knew what they had on their hands eventually.
Yeah.
They rewrote the whole thing, remember, just a year ago.
Yeah.
Remember?
I think they definitely fell backwards into this movie. I don't think they set up to write this movie. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, let us talk about this movie.
Yes. Let us.
I want to do some basic impressions before we talk about stuff. Obviously, I love this movie. But what I think was most interesting about it is that I have only had an experience like this watching a film one other time, and that was with the Lego Movie. And both of those movies, almost constantly, I could not believe what I was seeing. I could not believe that the ideas presented by the film made it to the final cut of an animated family movie. Now the ideas, of course, are very different. With the Lego Movie, it's all about creativity, and the Lego Movie was top to bottom subversive. It was like
It was a meta.
We're going to talk about the Lego Movie again. It was our first Lost episode, and I think it's a very important movie, but it's been a while since we recorded that first one. I think we could talk about it again. Maybe we'll try to get a guest on here for a fresh perspective. But it's that was that. This movie is top to bottom about institutionalized racism, and I was astonished that the movie got made, because it doesn't pull any punches.
Disney never wants to push the envelope.
And they've had problems with race. And I'm not just talking about Song of the South. I'm talking about the Renaissance, Pocahontas, Aladdin, even The Lion King, pulled some shit regarding race that, people have criticized them for very validly.
Or even Princess and the Frog, they never addressed it at all. They never made it a point, to a point where it's sort of inaccurate that Tiana would be able to do the things that she was doing given the time period the film is set in.
So this movie is almost reparations for all that stuff, addressing racism in a very nuanced way, which we'll get into that after I let these other two guys talk.
And one thing I do want to preface is that when I brought this up with some kids in class, and one friend had apprehensions. He was like, the history of animated animals and race representation is bad. And I have to preface that it's not like that at all. It's not like the crows from Dumbo.
Yeah, there's no one-to-ones.
There's no one-to-ones.
Yeah,
one
that's the most
species of
interesting thing
animal
about it.
is not supposed to indicate a specific race and their stereotypes whatsoever. They're able to subvert that by creating their own structure, their own society. And the rules for that society just happen to be similar to ours, but not at the same time.
There are parallels, but they're not one-to-one parallels. Like, that was me going into the movie. It's like, okay, who are the white people? Mm-hmm. And in the first scene where the fox beats her up, it's like, okay, the predators are the white people. And then later when she's talking to her parents about all their prejudices, I'm like, okay, the prey are the white people. There are no white people.
There are no white people.
There are no people. There are no people.
They're animals. The whole point of the film is before they got to race and all this stuff, they were just going off the idea of what if humanity never happened and animals created their own society. And that was like the through line for their whole design philosophy and everything.
It's the sequel to The Good Dinosaur.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. Tooch, what were your impressions?
I mean, my first impression was, obviously the buzz was so huge and I sat on seeing it for a while, so I knew going into it about the race stuff. I do wish I would have seen it completely blinded, because Lord knows the marketing says nothing. Nothing.
It doesn't explicitly, but I went back and I watched it, and the marketing is based purely on your impressions about what the stereotypes of these animal characters typically are in the history of humanity in our stories. This is a fox. Foxes are sly. They're clever. They're quick. This is a rabbit. They're natural enemies. You know, like, they're already defining what these characters are supposed to be like based on what we think fox and rabbit characters are from, you know, stories we've heard since we were kids.
And I do love that. Like I say, like, they told us nothing in a very hyperbolic voice, but, like, good. Like, good. This was a good marketing campaign.
Because at the time, we were like, well, duh, we know what a rabbit and a fox is in a story. We've seen this shtick before.
And I hate that fox's face.
But because I didn't really know that it was really trying to do anything, I was just like, well, I mean, like, you're Disney, and this is a cartoon movie. Like, beast fables have been around since we could make shit up to tell people.
And I love how they use that, though. This film wouldn't work if we didn't all know beast fables, if we didn't grow up with that stuff.
This isn't a beast fable, this is the beast fable.
Yeah, it's a beast fable about beast fables.
One other thing I want to say about the marketing is that we talked last time about how Kung Fu Panda's commercials suck. I think these even the proper trailers for Zootopia were really good, because they gave away almost none of the plot. They gave away a basic premise of, like, this is a rabbit cop, and there's a thing she's got to solve. So, what we got is more of an idea of what we're going to get from this. We're going to get great jokes. We're going to get beautiful animation. We're going to get action stuff. We're going to get some buddy cop stuff. We're going to, we're have a character.
We're going to get the cutest bunny.
Yeah, we're going to get a character who's got a deck stacked against him, but we don't know the full thing of that. But, like, so not only did they obfuscate the entire theme, the thematic heart of the movie, I didn't know what the fucking plot was.
Yeah,
but they still drew us in with all the other stuff, because there's so many things to love about this film other than that.
Yeah. What they told us is
a very dense film.
Yeah,
they
told us, like,
odd structure.
Yeah, I think it might be 4 acts.
Yeah.
It's like where are we now? I kept, like, waiting to get settled in to, like, okay, I know where this is going. We did Act 1. I know where it's going. That never happened. I was constantly like, okay, where are we going now? Okay.
Which again, that
was part of why this was so fun. Yeah. And what was amazing is that this was the opposite of Nina's Peanuts watching experience. Nina and I went at 10:20 p.m. on a Tuesday, and we were the only 2 motherfuckers in that theater.
You got an empty theater?
We got an empty theater. We were able to talk during the movie to each other, like, and not like talk over like a couple of clods. So, like, we were able to say, like, oh. It was a lot of oh shits. Like, we could actually be, like, fully shocked about the movie. We could laugh as loud as we wanted.
This is how. Do you want to know how not empty my theater was? Not even not quantitatively. There was, like, a handful of families, but qualitatively, my theater was so not empty. I walk in, look up, and my aunt and 2 cousins are there, and so I watched the movie with them. It was fun.
Well, on the one hand, it was cool to watch it on my own, and I've never been in an empty movie theater. But on the other hand, I was curious to see what it would be like with other people, like how other people would react to things, if they would have the same reactions, if it went over their heads.
Well, see, I got that too when I watched it a second time last night with my other sister and my mother. And yeah, a lot of stuff went over their head. And also, kids were laughing at that Angry Birds trailer, which made me extremely sad.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about themes, because you can't really gauge a lot of reaction from that. Because people are going to go like, oh, fuck, to a racism metaphor in an animated movie. The main thing you judge is, like, jokes. And a lot of stuff went over their head, like that bit when she gets on the train leaving Bunnyburg, and, like, the population, it keeps counting up constantly. Nobody laughed at that.
Yeah, that was one thing I took away from this, is, there's a lot of good bits, but overall, I would almost count the comedy genre of it as, like, secondary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody already saw the funniest bit of the movie.
It's more fun than funny.
Nothing tops the DMV. No. Maybe ever.
Maybe ever, no.
I liked when the wolves can't stop howling.
Yeah, that was
that was great too.
Like that.
Because it's dogs.
Within the conceit of the movie has some pretty solid speculative evolutionary biology going on here. This is a world without humans, so as you may have noticed, or may not have noticed, there are no dogs, there are no cats, there are no cows, there are no domesticated animals.
There are pigs.
There are pigs, but wild pigs exist. And I don't know if they look like that, but...
Probably not, no.
There are also, and I didn't notice until the second time around, no primates of any kind.
Nope.
No monkeys,
Shit.
no apes. Yes, and what that was is that, monkeys, apes, and humans all evolved from the same common ancestors. So what we're saying is that to entirely ensure humans never show up, that common ancestor never existed.
And primates are generally more intelligent than the other animals, and then they would be the dominant species.
Yeah, plus they got their hands evolved quicker. Nobody would have actually questioned it, but they preempted the idea that, primates there would have been like a plutocracy or something. That's not the right one. They would have had this advantage over everybody before everyone else evolved to be human-like.
Some monkeys have, 4 hands.
Yeah.
Here's one thing, though. The carrots were orange, which is something humans did. But you could say that maybe a rabbit botanist did that. That's fine.
As soon as you come up with the term plant husbandry, you've finagled with some genes, Gregor style.
Yeah, and most people don't know carrots aren't supposed to be orange.
Yeah, it's hard to telegraph.
Are you on first name terms with Gregor Mendeleev?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, good old Mendy. Absolutely.
And also, they even address the idea of diet implicitly. Yeah. Because the only anthropomorphized animals are mammals, and they make that explicitly clear.
Yeah,
so we could say that the carnivores are eating fish and birds and bugs and shit.
Not birds, apparently. The creator tweeted that they don't eat birds, but they do eat bugs and fish. We do see fish markets and bug protein burgers and stuff. But for some reason, not birds.
Okay.
I guess because they're too related to dinosaurs, and we just had a Disney movie about that. I don't know.
See, and that's the kind of thing that dickheads like us would scrutinize. You could say that in Kung Fu Panda. What the fuck does tigress eat?
Tofu. You saw her eating it.
I guess. Sure. All right.
She'd die, but okay.
Yeah. Whereas, these guys are eating fish and shit. It's very smart to actually preempt all the dickhead analysis that doesn't matter. But it shows the level of thoughtful filmmaking.
They sure showed us.
Yeah.
We can eat a dick.
Yeah.
That's what we eat, in this case.
Again, we're assuming that everybody is listening has seen this movie, but let's go over a brief thing. This movie is about a rabbit who dreams of becoming a police officer.
In the big city.
In the big city, and she would be the first one. And she overcomes
the
first rabbit to become a cop ever. And she overcomes a lot of stuff to get there. The entire training of becoming an animal is completely stacked against her.
Yeah.
Right.
And the society stacked against her. Nobody thinks she can do it, including her own parents. It's very funny how they deliver that, but that's its own thing. That's a level of self-defeatism in the idea of, your aspirations. Because I am this, I cannot be that.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was so normalized that they said it in this goof-ass way is another element of, the subtleties and the nuances of racism. Because this movie, there's a surface level, like, racism of, like, some jackass in a greasy shirt and a Confederate flag bumper sticker on his horrible truck, yelling slurs at people of color. That's, overt racism. And it's obviously terrible, but it's far from the most insidious manifestation of racism. No. What is more insidious... Prevalent. Yeah, what's far more insidious and prevalent are these ingrained notions, these ingrained preconceived notions of what people of certain races are not, what they can and cannot be. Things that people... that is so internalized that it's not even actively thought of as racism.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what this movie is about. And it's not even just a predator and prey dichotomy. For example, the chief of police is prey. He's a Cape buffalo. He's a herbivore. But he's big. And he's Idris Elba. And he did a great job. All the actors in this movie were phenomenal.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. And our secondary protagonist, Nick, he's a predator, but he's not seen in a good light by other predators.
Other predators think he's a dickhead too, as do other prey when he was the kid.
Based on his species.
There's this dichotomy of predator versus prey, but there's all these other prejudices among those dichotomies. Which, again, that's something that really lines up one-to-one with any real-world analog, but there's hints of that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's pieces of it.
Like, little stuff like when Judy gets first introduced to Clawhauser, the guy at the front reception desk at the police station. He says that she's so cute. And she says this very politely calm, like, actually, it's alright if other rabbits call us cute, but it's a little offensive if someone who's not a rabbit calls us cute.
Like, clearly rehearsed.
And then he apologizes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he apologizes. Not only does he apologize, but he, like, explains, like, why he's admitting that he's apologized. Like, I can't believe that, like, me, basically he's saying, like shit, like, I'm a fat dumpy cheetah who's trying to be a cop, and here I am, like, stereotyping you, like, I've got no room to...
Yeah, I'm the stereotypical schlub cop.
Yeah, I should know better.
That bit was in the trailer, but if you didn't know what else was coming, because why would you suspect that this movie would do any of that stuff? It just seems like a one-off joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't know that was going to be most of the stuff in this movie. Also, Clawhauser was played by a man named Nate Torrance, who has done some stuff. He was in Motor City and Star vs. the Forces of Evil as Ferguson, Marco's friend, who isn't voiced by Matt Chapman.
That's how Nikki compartmentalizes all cartoon characters, whether they are or are not Matt Chapman.
Did you get the impression that role was written for Jonah Hill and then they couldn't get him?
I was feeling some Hillishness from him.
Yeah, older Hill, definitely. Maybe in the original, when they first wrote the script, they wanted Hill, and then Hill started doing other stuff.
Yeah,
maybe.
And
it was a very effeminate sort of performance.
Yeah, I feel like he definitely brought his own flair to it.
Yeah, I think
so. The more he was shown, the more I was like, okay, this guy has got his own thing working.
So, like, the film starts off with Judy as a kid, and she sort of gives this kid play, giving us the
most violent children's play ever performed.
My favorite character is the kid who did the music.
I loved him.
Yes.
He was the best part. Just these deadpan stares into the audience as he hits these music notes.
Really diverse, too. Like, he was fucking killing that slide whistle. Most people just do the one, like, whoop. And then, like, he was like...
He puts the little toy Casio on top of the piano to play it. Like, just a bunch of shit. I want to watch the movie again, specifically for him.
I know.
Yeah. You'll just leave after that. I was like, I've seen the rest.
And we get introduced to her family, where she's from, her conflict, her desires. whatever. And then we jump cut to the future. Goes through police training. She fucking rocks it. Doing the whole, like, I'm gonna do
parkour.
Yeah. Well, and it also kind of makes sense because rabbits and foxes are some of the only animals that exist in all of those biomes. So in that way, she has an advantage.
Oh, shit. I didn't think a lot about those things.
Yeah, so that actually makes them really good cops because they can go anywhere in the city.
Sequel's gonna be a rat cop because rats can also do that.
And he loves pizza. Too bad they can't have cigarette crab.
Aw. So yeah, and then, she rides the train. Her parents gives her all this racist fox repellent.
Oh, it was so bad.
Yeah, that way, because we were alone, Nina and I were like, oh no, the whole scene.
And there's also a gender aspect too, because she's a lady bunny, and foxes are also typically, in Western culture, are typically masculinized, not so much in, like, Japan, but... So there's multiple layers of what's going on.
Yeah.
And, like, predator could also mean something else.
I mean, even the dumb bunny thing, that's a thing that's typically said to women.
Yeah.
Synonymous with bimbo, somebody who's attractive but stupid.
So yeah, she boards the train. We get our musical montage that shows us the setting, which there are a lot of.
Oh,
I was be in this movie.
I was freaking the fuck out because again, like, I mean, maybe I missed some stuff in the trailers, but for the most part, I just thought like, okay, it's like New York City but with aminals. But like when I saw like the big bird's eye view of the whole fucking place, I was like, that looks like some kind of like fucking fantasy setting, like fucking map. I want a giant version of it the size of my wall. I love Zootopia.
Yeah, and
it's like
feeds
some kind of
into
Isengard levels, like tiered city.
Yeah,
it's great.
And it like feeds into each other. Like the Tundra Town, they have all the refrigerators, and the excess heat powered by the refrigeration machines creates the desert
it's so
town.
Good.
And it's like Tumblr has been great. All of the designers and people who worked on the film have been posting a lot of stuff, some of it unused. Just all the world building they did for this, like, it's astounding. They thought of every little tiny detail.
Honestly, the only that's my main reason coming out of this film. Like, they should franchise it. Like, realistically, like, it might not be as good as I want it to ideally be, but I just want to see more of this fucking city.
Yeah. There's so much there.
My favorite goof during that montage, Nina and I were just talking, because, like, it's a montage, you're just looking and talking. But, in Tundra Town, there's the river, and all the animals on the ice floes just in line, and that's their commute. That's hilarious to me. And I had to explain it to Nina, and even, like, nobody else in the theater laughed when I saw it the second time, because it's this very, very subtle joke that may not have even been intended as a joke, but it's hilarious to me. That's just their daily grind.
There's so many jokes, like all the puns and the parodies and
the stegs, man, the Easter eggs, which is what they're called, are stegs. How many bands did you catch on her iPod, Tooch?
I wanted to, like, I didn't catch a single one, and I kicked myself for it. It was like, I saw like half of a bunch. What was the Guns N' Roses one?
Guns N' Rodents.
I knew it was a longer word, and oh god. Okay, you.
And there was Fur Fighters. I didn't catch any others. I tried on the second time. It was like part of the reason why I spent the ticket the second time. I was like, I'm gonna get those fucking bands.
Oh, I got them.
Dope.
Fleetwood Yak.
Okay.
The Beagles. Hyena Gomez.
Wow.
K9 West.
Yeah.
And Gazelle.
Oh, that's so good.
And Gazelle's album had songs called Part of Your Wool, Era Bunny Nights, and Let It Goat.
That one's bad. That last one's bad.
Let it goat. And it's just like
that's a retroactive. That's a. That's a retroactive
square
fucking
eyes.
because this movie crushed Frozen's record.
Yeah,
which is amazing because it's a far more important movie and a better movie. Like,
it took some jibes at Frozen too. And one of the co-writers was the director of Frozen.
Right.
There were 2 Frozen goofs which you may have missed.
Yeah.
Bogo's yelling at Hops, and he's like, "Life isn't just some, magical fantasy where you sing an insipid song and all your problems just go away. So let it go." And I'm like, okay.
I missed that one completely.
No, you were like,
actually,
oh man.
Yeah, there were 3, and then the best one, we actually talked about. I screamed and woke everybody up in my house about it when we talked about it the first time. When we were talking about the cast list, Alan Tudyk, who has been in every CGI Disney movie since Tangled, in this movie plays Duke Weaselton, which is a reference to his character in Frozen, the Duke of Weselton, who everybody called the Duke of Weaselton. And I forgot about it. And when
Judy
they do that again in the
calls
movie,
him Weselton.
And he's
like, it's Weaselton.
And I almost jumped out of my chair in the theater because I had forgot by that point.
And run a marathon around the just.
Yeah. And then when he's showing the bootlegs, which is amazing.
Yeah, I also didn't
have those too.
Well, I caught them. I don't remember them anymore.
We've got Wrangled, Wreck-It Rhino,
Pig Hero 6.
Yeah.
And then I even got stuff that's not out yet, which was Goatson 2, which means, in fiction, the movie Goatson, Gazelle did the song for the movie. Floatson? Were they still goats?
Too. No.
Were they still...
they
were mooses. They were mooses.
It was Floatson 2.
Because if they were goats...
Giraffic, which...
And a Moana one, which I don't remember.
Meowana.
I was going to say, if it was goats, then that would have meant that in fiction, Gazelle did the song for the Zootopia Frozen. She did Let It Goat for that movie.
Probably.
That would have been ludicrously nested, and maybe she did.
She probably did. She seems to be this big star. Shakira.
Tooch and I's friend and former colleague, who goes by a doxographist online, she pointed out, it is weird, though, that Gazelle is named Gazelle, because that's like if, say, Adele's name was White Lady.
Well, I mean, it's supposed to be yeah, I don't know. I mean, Adele's name is Adele, Shakira's name is Shakira, they go by their first name. I don't know. I think they originally wanted it to be Adele. I think I read that, but then Adele, blew the fuck up, and then they sort of changed things around. They're like, let's do Shakira.
We can afford Shakira better. She peaked when I was in high school. She hit the apex of her career, and barring some kind of massive comeback, she's on a downward. So she's still doing fine.
I mean, she did the song for the South African World Cup. That was the last big hit she had, I think. She's
doing fine, but she's not as big in, say, America as Adele is.
And she had a lot of input as to what her character looked like. I mean, it's designed, her hair, her outfit is an actual outfit she owns. And apparently she even asked them to, give her more meat, because she was she's too skinny. Give her some hips or something, for God's sake.
It's kind of my bit, do you fucking remember?
How are they supposed to tell any level of the truth?
Apparently, her kids are binge watching the movie and fighting. Her baby kids are fighting over Gazelle action figures, and I don't know. She had a great time, and Clawhauser's fanboying of her was wonderful.
That app.
It's a real app. You can find. Well, I don't know. You can do it online.
Bogo's face when he's looking at it.
Do it with your persona.
Yeah, he was so legitimately happy in that moment.
I love Bogo.
Yeah, Chief Buy One Get One, I've been calling him because I work in retail.
Well, apparently it's part of a Swahili word, Obogo or something like that. That it just means that animal that he is.
Bogo sounds like a 2003.com startup.
Yeah, everybody's last name was related to their aminal. When he's yelling out all the cops' names. I don't remember. One of them was Fangmeyer, was a wolf, I think.
Yeah.
They all sound kind of like regular-ass names. But they're
Judy's
animated.
Mom's full name is Bonnie Hops, so I think that
and
wins.
her dad is Stu. Bunny Stew.
Oh, why would you name your child that?
Okay, speaking of names, the fucking craziest reference that was so far in the forefront of this movie. The reference that I don't think 1% of the viewership of this movie got it, and I'm surprised I got it.
I certainly didn't.
Emmett Otterton. In 1977, the Jim Henson Company released a made-for-TV holiday movie called Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
Yep.
Why would they reference that?
I have no idea. Honestly, the only reason I didn't catch that, like, I thought about it in my brain. Like, I said Emmett Otterton, I was like, oh, like that puppet jug band thing. But, like, I just assumed that it was a wild coincidence.
Yeah.
Fans of the people who made this movie just really like animal stories. Like, the guy who directed it, he was just like, I really like Disney's Robin Hood, and I kind of just wanted to make another movie like that. And then after he added like 5 other writers, it became what we got.
Yeah, there's a lot of jokes going around that I keep seeing of like people saying that like Nick Wilde's is Disney Robin Hood's son.
He kind of is.
He looks a lot like him.
He's definitely he's directly inspired by him. The whole film is inspired by Robin Hood.
One of those memes like, when did this become hotter than this?
Yeah.
I mean, they have the same color scheme, and, like, I mean, that's just color theory. It's orange and green.
You could totally just make the case that, like, oh yeah, this is okay, I made the Good Dinosaur joke. This is actually a sequel to Robin Hood.
Robin Hood had the snake in it, though.
Yeah, but shut up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Shut up,
but
Nikki.
no.
Every listener is just screaming, "Shut up, Nikki!"
It was a cartoon. Okay, Robin Hood the movie is a cartoon in universe.
But, like, that would have been hilarious if one of the bootlegs was just unchanged Disney's Robin Hood.
Yeah.
And originally Nick, we've discussed this before, but he was going to be the main character.
Yep.
They had him be the main character for a long time until, like, a year before the movie came out when they rewrote the whole thing, and they're like, wait, no.
This is
I can see why they would make that decision from, like, a boneheaded Hollywood perspective. Like, well, it's gotta be the guy. It's gotta be the sarcastic
this was the
man.
Plot. It was apparently in that version, predators were required to wear shock collars that would zap them if they started getting too excited. And Nick ran an underground club where predators could remove the collar and experience the taste of the wildlife. And he was originally going to be the main character, and Judy was going to be the secondary character who would come in and try to bust his fight club, essentially.
That sounds like a dump movie.
And apparently they're like, this is too sad, and it doesn't work, and it doesn't utilize our actors enough, and it makes more sense for it to be more of Judy's overall growth. Because, I mean, they both grow as characters. But...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, when we first saw Nick Wilde, there was a lot of backlash on his design because he was making the DreamWorks face. He was a super smug-looking prick. And, like, he does make that face throughout a lot of the movie. But it always feels characteristic because he's always trying to scam her.
Yeah.
That's the
face.
guy he's decided to become.
Yeah. He wants to be the DreamWorks face.
His arc is so natural and believable. His face turn, I guess you could call it, is... It just fits like a glove. It's amazing. It works so well.
Yeah. And, like, they never even, like, necessarily paint him as, like, that much of a shit heel. He just, like, doesn't have time for this little cop's bullshit. He's trying to make a buck.
But he does go through the effort of, like, calling her out and explaining how shit works.
He came off as so initially fake right off the jump to me. So it was obvious, like, yeah, he's gonna have some sad backstory, but, like, that was...
Yeah, you can tell he's broken beneath the surface during that whole rant.
But, like, in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you notice during that rant that he's like, you end up so poor and destitute, you end up living in a box under a bridge, and then later we realize he is?
Yeah, at the end of the movie, he lives under a bridge.
But he's, like, still got a lawn chair and a drink and a sunglasses. He's, like, trying to lean into it.
I really like his buddy's van.
You have Finnick.
Yeah. the Fennec Fox's sweet fucking van with the big shitty mural on the side of it.
Yeah, some Frank Frazetta looking.
I really love his elephant costume. It's so cute. Little Toots. It's irresistible. And the John DiMaggio racist ice cream parlor elephant.
Yeah.
We reserve the right to refuse service to anyone.
I'm really glad that like they made that like a plot point. She was like, "I'm gonna call you out on not like using gloves and shit and just shoving crap up your nose." Because the second they made that sundae in the opening of the scene, I was like, "Oh,
yeah, me too."
That.
No, that's his nose.
Oh.
You were right. When we talked about, the casting, we did know John DiMaggio was going to play a character who worked in an ice cream parlor. And Tooch said, and he's not going to get enough screen time, for John DiMaggio. I mean, that character was dumb, but I always wanted more of John DiMaggio. He's the best.
Yeah. Also, I think
Maurice
LaMarche was Mr. Big.
Yeah.
So that was great.
Who got a lot of lines for someone who's
not
good. Like, for someone who's a voice actor in a major animated movie.
Obviously they
delightful.
upped the pitch in post, so you couldn't. I had to look up that it was him.
Yeah.
I mean, I was safe for the credits. Yeah.
I mean, a Godfather, like an extended Godfather parody character that reoccurs throughout the movie.
Yeah.
In 2016.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Shark Tale, to evoke that mess, made the problem of doing like a full-on Godfather parody, which is gonna fly over kids' heads. Kids know the tropes of the Godfather, but they don't know the events of the fucking movie. But yeah, everybody knows the mob boss Godfather tropes, so they can play with that.
But they also they went so far as to do the wedding scene, which I really appreciated, because it's like so...
That wedding scene was hilarious, because it was so tiny.
You only ever get the Don Corleone shtick with the na, but then they actually do the whole actual wedding and not just make reference to it. And I was like, oh, this is cute now. And they actually make it a plot point. You guys, this movie's really good.
Yeah, and Frou, she's like, Daddy! And she actually is like important.
My life!
Remember from the giant donut?
I was shopping at
it was
Mousie's.
It was Mousie's.
And then, like an actual shrew, she got pregnant in a week. Because that's actually how shrews work.
Yeah, they've got a ludicrously short gestation period. I mean, that's what you're like at the bottom of the food chain. That's why rabbits reproduce so much. It's not just that they fuck a bunch. I mean, that's part of it, but what's more important is that they gestate super short. Like elephants, it takes elephants takes like a year and a half because they're extremely hard to kill, so it doesn't matter that much.
And they're
like even with a gun, it's hard to kill an elephant.
Yeah, and like predatory animals only hunt young. Mm-hmm. Once they're an adult elephant, it's like, this is too much energy. We're gonna probably get mortally injured. Fuck this. Even hunting young can be super risky.
They're still pretty big.
Yeah, and then
the
and
mommies
they
usually
travel
real close.
in groups, so the adults always protect them.
Yeah.
Could Disney just refurbish the Animal Kingdom part of the theme park into Zootopia?
I would love it, because Animal Kingdom is the suckiest park in Disney World. It's so lame and dumb, and I hate it.
I mean, I haven't been there in a while. I haven't been there in a while, and the year I was there when I was like 10 years old, I think like half of it was under renovation anyway. But like, there wasn't that much to do.
No.
That Mount Yeti roller coaster was pretty good, and then
no.
No, Nikki, that roller coaster sucks.
No, Animal Kingdom is the worst Disney park.
Make it Zootopia.
Make it Zootopia. That'd be way cooler.
I want to walk through a little mouse rodent town. Like,
yeah.
That'd be cute.
Inciting a scurry.
Yeah.
A scurry. The lemmings.
Oh, yeah.
They were my favorite.
They're so chill.
The Lemming Brothers.
Yeah, and there's that bit when she's getting off the train where they get, like, stuck in the tube. I noticed the second time around, it's because the guy on the bottom was checking his phone.
God, now I wanna see this movie, like, multiple times now. There's so much shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently some characters were gonna get more of screen time in, like, original versions, like Kevin and Raymond, the polar bears. Apparently, it was gonna be a Russian mobster... polar bear. Like, it wasn't just like a joke in the movie. Like, when they were conceiving the mobster character, they wanted it to be a polar bear initially before they changed it. And then the honey bear, the honey badger, Madge, the doctor that we see in that one scene, was gonna be like a friend of Nick's and be like a conspiracy theorist and stuff. And like they designed so many characters and so many things. Originally they were gonna have a bit where they spent more time in Judy's home, like in her house, like exploring what a rabbit home would be like. And like just all this crazy shit.
I assume it would just be like a hobbit hole.
Kind of. Yeah, all roundy.
Roundy and just full of children.
And just full of children.
And it means comfort.
Yeah.
Fucking.
Like, the movie is basically airtight, but you can really tell that the movie went through multiple drafts to get to the amazing end product that it is. I really do think that they fell backwards into this movie.
They had a lot of great ideas, and it's honestly a miracle that it worked the way it did in all of the best ways. Because when a lot of other films in the past have tried to be overly ambitious, you end up with this mishmash of way too many things that go nowhere with way too long of a movie. And dear Lord, don't see Batman versus Superman. Don't go.
Yeah, I bet the story editor of this movie is a hero.
Yes.
Whoever they
there
are.
were 7 writers. There were 7 story people and 2 screenplay writers.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That shouldn't work. That should spell doom. I mean, obviously they're good writers, but you gotta put a lot of credit on whoever edited that story. Because, like, the movie's, I think, 4 acts, and it's 108 minutes long. It's a long movie. It's a lot happening, and it feels like a long movie. It doesn't feel, it's not like a too long movie. It doesn't drag at any point, but you can tell a lot of stuff happens in this movie. In fact, there's an email I want to get back to later that proposed a theory that I think has a lot of legs, but would have added a 5th fucking act to the movie.
It has a lot of legs, but it undermines the thematic reason.
Yeah, I think we need to work our way into that.
Yeah.
So, the crime at first is that there's 14 missing mammals. They're all predators. And Judy gets into it because one of them, the Emmett Otter, his case is not being taken. And again, that's a matter of prejudice, where it's not just like predator versus prey. A lot of it just seems to be small animals are pooped upon. Everyone else was like way bigger. They were all like big cats and wolfmen and everything. And then there's just this one otter.
Who's a florist, he's not like a super important person.
And then Judy's the only one who will take the case, so she's got to solve this case with no resources and just this jerkwad who. That was my favorite piece of Nick Wilde facial animation, was when she hustles him.
Yeah. He just
this is a sheer
himself.
Terror. He starts with confusion and then like genuine terror. Because he's confused when she boots the stroller, which is. The way that that's possible is because the cars come in so many different sizes. There is a car that's the size of that stroller. There has to be. Think of everything in this movie. And, as the plot unfolds, like, it takes a while before you really have any idea where it was going. Before it
Other than,
back.
Judy needs to solve this case for personal reasons. But we don't know what else there is to that.
Yeah, and we don't know if the case is affecting the other themes of the movie. Turns out it's the whole thing.
Yeah, of course.
So we find out that all the missing mammals have gone savage. They're all predators that reverted to their predatory ways, basically turning into monster men. And they were all in this formerly haunted hospital. where
they were all in Silent Hill.
They were all in Silent Hill 1. They were all in Nowhere from Silent Hill 1.
I guess more Resident Evil? Maybe?
No, Silent Hill 1
because they're all crazy virused.
And the new equipment. Yeah, it is more Resident Evil because of the new equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I like Silent Hill better though. They find out that the mayor, Leodore Lionheart, played by the always amazing J.K. Simmons, had his hand deep in that. And when we were looking at that cast list, I saw Leodore Lionheart and I'm like, I bet he's the villain. And then when he was being walked out, I'm saying to you, like, I fucking called it. I called it a year ago. I didn't.
But you were like, wait, I have a feeling the movie isn't over.
Yeah, this feels like we're in the middle of the second and a half act.
Yeah, so it's like, what? But what, though?
So that discovery, that Nick and Judy cracked the case, and they're like, we're great pals. We overcame this shit together. Nobody believes in us, but we believe in each other, and we got it done. Yeah. She does this press conference, like, they ask, what is there any connection between all the cases? Like, well, the only connection is that they're all predators. And then she goes on this thing, which Nina and I,
because they ask her why, like, why do you think
and
this
Nina
is
and I
happening?
are both like writhing in our seats, like, oh no, stop!
Because it's like, the media's got her back against the wall. She has no legitimate answer for these people, but she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to be like, well, I don't fucking know. And all she has was the discussion the mayor and the doctor were having in the lab, because even they didn't know.
And she hasn't been coached to give these sort of things, and they haven't had any formal communication with the doctors and, like, politicians and PR and the kind of people who would normally say, like, what's okay to say and what's not okay to say. They basically are just like, come on, Judy!
Yeah, so what she says is, it probably has something to do with the fact that they are predators. They have embedded deep in their DNA primal hunter instincts that are, for whatever reason, coming to the surface. And this sparks,
and it could happen to anybody. It's based in biology.
Yeah. It could happen to any predator.
Biology!
Yes. So that's the focal point of the movie. That's where all the themes come to a head. The idea of these internalized racial preconceived notions and how they affect how we judge people. And those notions being weaponized by authority to subjugate groups of people.
Yeah.
We learn shortly thereafter that the predators are in a significant minority, which of course parallels the actual animal kingdom. They're only 10% of Zootopia's population. And they become, de facto, not de jure, but de facto. All the racism in this movie is also de jure, not de facto. There's no like Jim Crow or any fucking thing, but it's all this judgment that affects subtly in the background how everything works, but nobody is actively denied rights.
Yeah.
No.
And so there's all this panic. It's like, we cannot trust these people. And like Nick, in the best piece of Jason Bateman's acting in this movie, and he was great in it. He was the guy from Arrested Development, right?
Yeah.
He's like, where he's basically just repeating back to her in legitimate, like, anger, but more than anything, shock at her audacity. What he says, like, there's a biological impetus for savage behavior, whatever it was. And it's like, Nick, you're not like them. Oh, so there's a them? And I had to look away from the screen because that was really heavy.
Because it's so brilliant, because up until this point, Judy has been portrayed as, like, this victim of prejudice who's been fighting for her ability to be what she wants to be, every step of the way. And we get a little, we get hints that she herself has prejudice, with her parents, and then when she first meets Nick, she has that line about how eloquent he is.
Him.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I forgot that.
You
I forgot that each time. I forgot that each time when I saw it the second time. Like, you're so eloquent and well spoken. Even the second time, I was like, "What the fuck?" And just now, I forgot it again. I'm like, "What?"
And Nick was like, "Wow, that's not. Thanks. I've never met someone so unpatronizing."
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of that line from Justice League where they go back to the Golden Age.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
And Golden Age Green Lantern says to Jon Stewart, "Thanks, son. You're a credit to your people."
Ooh.
Yeah.
I can't believe they got away with that either, because that's insane. Because that's what it is. It's what it is from the characters who say that. It is meant as a sincere compliment, but comes from a place of the idea that your people,
are inferior.
Are inferior, but you rise above that. To bring up, real world parallels, it's like you say, oh, you're not like other black people. You're not like other Asian people. That's despicable.
Yeah.
Don't do that!
It's brilliant because, like I said, she, despite being on the receiving end of so much prejudice throughout this whole movie, is also incredibly prejudiced. And the fact that the film addresses that you receive prejudice and be prejudiced at the same time, as long as you're a minority group. It doesn't really work if you're a white person. But,
yeah, which is
like, even Nick definitely has his prejudices. Like, you know, he's very belittling to her as a rabbit and other people. There's that scene where there's a lot of scenes where Nikki and I wanted to fucking, like, get up and explode, where they're going through the cameras with Assistant Mayor Bellwether.
We haven't talked about it, and we have to.
Yeah.
Where, you know, she's just looking it up on her computer, and Nick, like, you see it. It's just like her hair, you know, she's got like fuzzy sheep hair, and you just see his eyes and his hand reach over, and you know what's happening.
Oh.
And he touches it, and he's like, it's so soft.
You can't touch a sheep's hair?
Well,
that's one of the one-to-one parallels in this movie. There are some. There's smaller moments.
Legitimately, I just this very minute put those pieces together.
Really?
Duder. Really?
Because sheeps you want to touch.
Yeah, they're soft.
Yeah, because they have soft...
Realistically, adult sheeps are actually gross to touch. They're oily and shit. Baby lambs.
Yeah, they have fuzzy,
baby lamb
puffy hair.
Yeah.
And the way it was styled, even and the way it was shot in that scene, because it was styled in like a cartoon way, but in the scene it was framed. It looked like African American hair, just like grown out, but white like a sheep.
Yeah.
Even like his fascination, like his audacity that he could just touch it. And he's been like, wow, it's so soft. I didn't think it was going to be soft. They never let me around them. They never let me touch their hair.
Yeah, and part of that, this is part of what masks it so well. It's that, you know, fox and sheep are enemies. So, you know, imagine a sheep getting let and a fox get this close. So there's your animal thing. But no, this is about the fact that non-black people need to stop being so fucking fascinated with just touching black people's hair.
Yeah.
It's hair.
Tooch, you met my friend Roberto. He's got that all the time. My friend Roberto, who hung out with at MagFest, he's got this enormous, frankly, fucking bitchin' afro. And
it adds an
drunk
extra
people
foot
are
to
all
his
the time
height.
trying to grope his scalp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not
He's made money off of that one. A really drunk person paid him to do, and he's like, well, I'm in college. Go ahead. I need the cash. But yeah,
that's sad.
I don't think that he personally minds that much. Whatever. That's not the point.
Yeah, that's not the point.
That's not the point. It's a it's this exoticization, whatever the actual word is.
And the fact that you have this idea that you can just touch it without asking. Like, it's there so you can just touch it. And, like, Bellwether doesn't mention anything, because at this point she's still putting up a front. But in the end credits, when she's in prison, somebody in prison tries to touch her wall, and she fucking slaps them. So, you know, she was aware of what was going on.
Bellwether, voiced by Jenny Slate, who I love. I love her horrible, terrible, annoying voice. It's amazing. Is the assistant mayor who, in her own words, is more of a glorified secretary. I mean, Lionheart doesn't respect her. And
no.
Implicitly, because he's a huge apex of the apex predator. Yeah. And she's a little cute lamb. So he treats her like two turds. It sucks. And
really only she's part of his campaign to appeal to the prey votes, basically.
Yeah, his Mammal Inclusion Act.
Their Mammal Inclusion Act and stuff, and make him look like a more inclusive politician.
Yeah, which is like kind of like an affirmative action thing, where it's programs to allow animals access to roles that are typically not extended to them.
That's how Judy was able to become a cop, even though everybody thought it was a fucking
otherwise, they
joke.
probably would have just turned down her application on the grounds that she is a rabbit. In the same way that the military can turn down application if you're like of poor health or like under a certain height or weight or whatever. Same kind of thing. Like she's obviously very small, and they could say not. That's the thing, is that not even saying no rabbits, is like no animals under X weight, which is non-specifically excluding a ton of animals. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, and it's kind of hard to tell like how good of a guy Lionheart is, because he's a shit to Bellwether. We don't know if it's a racist thing. Maybe he's just a misogynist. Maybe he's just a jackass.
He's a politician.
He's a politician. I think that's the best way to describe his character. Everything he does is politically motivated.
Yeah, he's doing his best, but everything he does is political.
He had that great line at the end where it's like, did I imprison these animals illegally? Yes. I was trying to protect the city. It was a classic case of doing the wrong thing for the right reason.
God, that was so good.
His audacious self-awareness. It was brilliant. I like how...
Because he was right. If it got out that suddenly this predators, which are the minority and have a very mixed bag treatment in this society. In some ways they're privileged, in other ways they're not. Are, becoming essentially terrorists for no reason.
They obfuscate that initially, because at first you think he's just trying to protect himself, and he's like, yeah. But also, an entire portion of this city's population, I don't want them to get a bad rap for the actions of 14 people. Yeah. The idea, here's the other thing, the idea of the actions of a small few who all belong to a certain people group, the burden of what they did being applied to all members of that people group who had nothing to do with them. That's been happening forever, and it keeps happening. That's what's amazing about this movie. I think it started production, 4 years ago? Obviously the issues of this movie, of this institutionalized racism and everything, have been issues for all of human civilization. But they've become more and more in the forefront of our modern world while this movie was in production. All the Ferguson stuff, all the Black Lives Matters stuff, all of, these ISIS attacks being blamed on all Muslims ever. All this shit, which, you listening, you know where we stand on all this stuff. And so
a pig in a crowd yells at a cheetah activist to go back to the forest, and she's like, I'm from the savannah. Also, I'm from here.
Yeah, I think it would have actually been a bit more powerful. She would be like, I was born here. There's a long fucking history of this.
It's layered, because it could have been like he misunderstood her species and thought that cheetahs lived in the jungle. Yeah. Confused it with like a jaguar.
Yeah, like say for example, you see a woman in a hijab, you say some racist says, like, go back to Iran. I'm from Pakistan. Two completely different countries, cultures, everything, all burdened under they're all under one people group, and that's all Islam, and then they all get blamed for everything everybody does, which all of it is terrible. And, there's a long, sickening history of this, and it's great to see this movie address it in a way that is so even-handed, which is not to say that, it's both sides of the issue, because fuck that. But the idea that it's not, overly preachy or overly direct, because everything in this movie works without the real-world parallels. Because the idea that different animals wouldn't get along is just something we can all take as given, because in the wild, in our real-ass world, animals eat each other and shit.
Yeah.
And we have been writing stories and folk tales and legends about animals not getting along since the dawn of human storytelling.
Yep.
Every culture has stories about animals not getting along. Every culture.
Yeah. They all manifest differently, but all cultures have this palette from which we can appreciate these beast fables. So what we learn with Bellwether is that after she becomes mayor, we learn that she was the mastermind behind these attacks. She had been hiring a guy to use this poisonous flower to, as a poison on these predators. It would work against anybody, but they're specifically targeting predators, so they go savage so that they can, basically declare a war on predators. Here's a fucking thing recently. We recently got cold, hard proof that the war on drugs was fabricated in order to criminalize blackness. It's the same fucking thing. They are creating this problem for the sole purpose of demonizing a specific people group. In fact, when we were in the train scene where, like, all the visual, stuff they were dealing with there, it was all a Breaking Bad reference.
Yeah.
In fact, the sheep said, like, that must be Walter and Jesse. Oh, that must be Walter and Jesse with my coffee. Was it Walter?
It was Walter.
But it was still Walter and Jesse with my coffee. And all the iconography was the trailer from Breaking Bad. But I said to Nina, and she can say what she thought about it, but like, is this possibly a metaphor for crack and how the CIA created crack and introduced it to black communities to destabilize them? And I think it's kind of tenuous, but I think it's an idea. I don't know.
It's an idea, definitely. Like, the idea of, like, drugs, plants, whatever.
Yeah.
Being racially tied. That's a thing in this country, definitely.
Backing up from the heavy shit and talking about visuals, I noticed this more the second time. The sheep look very strange when they're moving. I think it has to do with the engine that they had to animate the wool.
I think they look strange because they have square eyes.
There's a rectangular eyes.
All the other animals have cartoon eyes.
And not Bellwether, which is interesting, but like, I get it. She's a main character. They have to make her look appealing because the fucking rectangular eyes are horrible. I thought it was just goats, but I guess it's goats and sheep. Mm-hmm. But the wool is something, because obviously, like, all fur and everything like that, and all CGI is animated via an engine. And the way that the wool moved made them look kind of stop motion-y.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, they looked a little strange. And, like, it wasn't bad, it was just kind of jarring. And I guess maybe that is how a big wool dude would look moving around like that.
I did notice that, like, a lot of it, like, this film, like, I mean, again, because it's like, technology just gets better and better. This is one of the best looking films in terms of textures, like, and like, photorealism. Like, when there wasn't a cartoon animal in the shot, and it would be, like, just a shot of a car driving down the road, there was some hints of uncanniness to it sometimes.
Hell, that part where they knock on the Panther's door, Mr. Manchas, and just the shot of the doorknob opening.
Yep.
They might as well have filmed that.
Yeah, I love that shit.
Yeah.
I love the line about
Tahunga. We're at Vine and Tajunga. It's Tahunga.
God, he's like so like exact. He's like, it's Tahunga.
Well, they're running for their lives.
This hick bitch.
They also, man, I bet the effects animators were like, had to be in the rainforest, huh? Got to render all this shit, huh? Great, I love it. I love it.
I mean, like, they make sure that, like, every set piece is just dense with bullshit. I love it.
It's visually very busy. It's very hard. Like, I didn't notice a lot of the quality of the production because it was just too much sometimes, and I just focused on the characters and the plot because there's so much happening.
But, like, it works for the setting, because it's, like, it's supposed to be, like, the big city. So, it's going to be huge and vast and sprawling and busy and crowded and just, like, in some parts claustrophobic and other parts just, like, it's just full of life.
Yeah, it really is.
Like, this is a lived-in setting, and I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a wonderful combination of cutting-edge visual tech and rock-solid, straight-in-the-ground
visual
art
storytelling.
Direction.
Yeah.
And art
just,
direction.
Like, delightful characters. Judy is so likable.
She's
infectiously likable.
Yeah,
when she does
super likable.
When she does the little Sonic the Hedgehog foot tap.
Yeah.
Like Thumper.
And when
Thumper.
And when she, and like, that was the one thing I made sure I never missed was every time she twitched her nose.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a tell is what it was. It was a poker tell. Whenever she was in some kind of distress, it went. It was amazing.
So cute.
Speaking of Thumper, there was a Bambi reference in the Natural History Museum, the little figure that Nick had in his mouth was a Bambi. But I mentioned that mainly because I want to bring us to the Natural History Museum and how that's like an amazing setting for the climax of this film.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because I didn't notice this, but I read it and I saw some screenshots. Like, some of the exhibits show primitive animals, and we see a predator attacking a prey village and then, like, defending their village with, like, spears and stuff. Like, this whole alternate...
I did notice that, yeah.
...history coming to a head. Like, this whole history of, like, natural biology and whatever coming to a head, and that being the location where, you know, we have this big confrontation with our villain, and she's like, there's more of us than there are of them, and blah, 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 and this is the way it should be, and we'd be unstoppable, and it's just like, oh, they thought of all the things.
God, they really, really did.
And also, Nina said in New York City, you can get into the Natural History Museum. Just there's a subway exit. You end up right in there.
Yep. They did their research.
Let's bring up that email that somebody sent us.
Okay.
I think it's an interesting theory that they presented. First of all, I want to commend this person for exquisite internet etiquette, and that the subject of the email was, do not open this until you've seen Zootopia. Which we didn't, because they spoiled that Bellwether was the mastermind in the first line, so thanks for saving us that. If you do want to talk about something spoilery with us, email's the best way to do it, because you can do this. Keep in mind, especially with movies, but also with TV, we don't watch it right away. A lot of times with TV, because of our schedules, we'll watch it on demand or online or something. We're not going to see a premiere usually unless it's, you know, like Gravity Falls. I think we all saw that.
Or it just happens to work out that we managed to watch something the week it comes out, which
usually
always
does not.
A coincidence.
Yeah. So, what they said is, I realize this is our friend Joshua. Wouldn't it have made more sense to have the Naturalist Club be behind the Predators Going Savage? I mean, they're a whole club that encourages animals being just that, animals. So wouldn't it be logically that they take the next step and want to be completely revert to their base instincts? They want to do this not only to predators, but all animals. They just sell that story to Bellwether so she can make a serum. You could even set it up that the night howler is growing in their garden, but you don't notice it at first. Here's the thing. Here's where you can actually see plot threads where maybe they were considering this. They had the otter be a florist who's a regular member. Maybe he figures it out. This is my commentary now. In the wedding scene, Mr. Big does say that Emmett Otterton was on his way to tell him something important. We never find out what that is, and I think that is the dangling plot thread, that maybe in an earlier draft, what was happening.
I think it makes sense, because in the beginning, Judy catches Weaselton illegally transporting the bulbs of the night howlers. So we know that there's like some underground stuff going on, and the police don't think anything of it. They just think they're flowers. And he's a florist, so he like knows about flowers and shit, and maybe he caught on or is like aware. But, you know,
also he's got mob ties.
Yeah, and you know, he does have some mob ties. He was silenced because he knew. Because he was a florist. That's why it was like, you have all these like apex predator important people and then just some florist. You know? Yeah. It's because he happened to what these plants were capable of.
Yeah. They never... that's the main thing. Like, after I read this, I could tell they definitely were maybe going to go there with it, but the movie didn't need it and didn't have room for it. I think it's a very interesting theory, but I think the movie's basically perfect as is. It is something that I wanted to discuss, though. It was a very interesting email. Thank you, Joshua.
And then it would be, like, it was super complicated, because then it's like, okay, so you're saying that the predator's natural instinct is to be, like, wild, insane creatures, because the night howlers didn't just make them... It made them, like, insane, like...
Yeah.
Savage, like they were... It was almost like they were animals that were starving to death, more than, like, a regular
that's the thing
animal.
that I think... Even a lot of, like, real-life people, like, mistake about animals... like, detached from this whole allegory, like, just because an animal eats meat doesn't mean it's, like, constantly bloodthirsty and out to bite your butt off. Like people live out in areas where there's predators, and it's like, you know, if you just like live your life and make enough noise and like drive a big scary car, like they'll eat your dog, but don't let your dog out of the house.
And they're like animals that had been living in like a first world kind of like society where they were well fed and stuff. You don't just like want to kill, you want to eat.
There's very
they would
few
have no
animals
reason to act that way unless they were hungry.
Yeah, there's very few animals that are needlessly violent, and the ones that are scarily enough usually the most intelligent ones.
Dolphins, chimpanzees,
humans,
humos.
Man.
Anyway, there's definitely more to this movie. There's so much in this movie.
There's a lot.
I love how Gideon Grey, the second he sees Judy as an adult, he just goes right into his therapy spiel.
Yeah.
But I like how it ends, like this moral that we can change and you know, like there's no easy solutions, but we need to try.
If
and
we
trying
just
counts.
be cool.
Exactly. It's like if we
For
try
a second,
we try to learn, we listen. Like even her parents were like, you know, we changed our minds because you inspired us to, you know, think outside of what we believed in, and now they have this great pie baking business partner, you know?
And it's not even that, like, Judy was this, like, savior character here to educate all the dumbos. Like, she learned a lesson, too.
She fucked up real bad.
That was my favorite thing. That was my favorite thing because, like, that part of the movie is in every movie, but in every other movie, that whole, I can't believe you did this, I'm, like, we're not bestest buddies anymore, and now you have to be sad for the first half of the third act, that's always due to some really stupid, forced, idiotic miscommunication that can always be easily solved with, like, a text message.
Yeah, whereas this was a real mistake a person in her position could have had, and it was a big mistake.
She fucked up in a moment of perfect lucidity.
Yeah.
You know, she meant to say everything she didn't think, but she meant it at the time.
Yeah, she's very innocent, like, naive. A lot of prejudice comes from being naive and not knowing any better.
That's most of the most of the racism comes from people who, like, make it their job to be like, I'm not a racist.
I don't hate anybody.
It comes from the idea that she never challenged these notions. She thought she did, but she never really did.
No.
She didn't put it back on herself.
Yeah.
No.
She's like, oh, my parents are so racist. Blah. My favorite line of her parents was on the phone call where it's just like the dad's just chanting, meter maid, meter maid, meter. Like, they didn't show, but he was definitely like on his knees, hands in the air.
I love that it was nuzzle time.
Praising animal Jesus, who does exist because a polar bear genuflected.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a lot of references to God. They said God a lot, so there is some sort of animal Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh,
maybe it's like the original animal that they all descend from or something. That would be kind of cool.
One thing I definitely left this movie wanting to discuss was specifically Nick and Judy's relationship throughout the film, because my main thing I came away from it with one point that led into another point. One, I legitimately wasn't sure where their relationship was going to be at the end, and then two, I kind of would have been fine with whichever. I legitimately wouldn't have cared.
I'm still not 100% sure exactly.
You know you love me. And she's like, do I love you? Yes, I do. Like referencing the press conference thing.
And, you know, that could mean a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're obviously friends at the very least.
Obviously great, good, extremely best friends.
Yeah, and partners. Yeah, I mean, it could be more. I mean, they go to the concert together. I don't know, but
I definitely think that they're not in any sort of romantic relationship at the end of the film. I definitely don't think that's the thing.
No.
But also, if they, like, this is a rare instance where if they did, I would have thought it would be like it would be fine. It wouldn't be better or worse.
Yes.
It would be difficult though, because if the allegory would be kind of like stretched, because a rabbit and a fox can't actually, like,
mate.
I don't know, mate.
Say.
let's say.
Mr. Aminals.
But a black person and a Chinese person can, because we're all humans, right? So it would sort of be kind of hard to juggle that.
It would stretch it beyond its breaking point.
Yeah, knowing how ridiculously, spectacularly deeply they thought about every freaking thing in their world they made up, that probably factored into it. Like, they probably thought about it and decided against it specifically because of that decision. But I mean, also it would have, like, I feel like it also, if they could have made it work, I feel like it would have strengthened the film in the main way. Would have been like, okay, well, now here's a comparison, something akin to an interracial relationship.
Yeah,
which would have been nice.
I think that relationship would have been earned because, like, I think Frozen actually got kind of close to it, but then didn't really dunk it. With the idea with Anna and was it Hans, like Hans Christian Andersen. Okay, yeah, okay. Like during that song is when there's like when they're like, oh, we meet each other, we really like each other. I'm like, okay, well, this is something. This isn't just like love at first sight bullshit. This is them getting to know each other over the course of a night and like starting a relationship. And then, later they're like, we're gonna get married, and then even like Elsa's like, after one night, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
But then like at the end of the movie, she ended up with the other guy after just one night or whatever. It was,
but they were dating.
Yeah, it wasn't a slam dunk, but it was a step in the right direction. By the point at the end of the movie, Nick had been through Police Academy. They had been. That's like a year later.
Yeah,
that's got to be like a year later at least. So the idea that a relationship between them, like a hypothetically romantic relationship, could blossom between the two is completely plausible given the context of the movie. They went through some serious shit together. They helped each other grow as people, and then they spent the next year getting to know each other on a basis when they weren't constantly on the race against the clock for the city is gonna blow up.
And also, like, to the point of, like, oh, well, they're a fox and a rabbit. Like, they can't like breed. It's like, well, neither can two dudes or two ladies.
So they could layer it that way. Yeah. I feel like they'd need another movie to have the space to do that.
Yeah.
Zootopia 2, Jungle Fever.
Oofa doofa. That is not helping. That is a mixed message. That is a mixed message. Also, it would be called Zootopia.
Zootopia.
One last thing about Nick and Judy. I think my favorite piece of animation was her talking to him under the bridge. She was crying as she was talking, but she was trying to muscle through it to finish her point. And then when he's like, okay, come here. And she just kind of waddles over and just donks her head against his chest.
She's so cute.
Super sweet. That was amazingly sweet.
I know.
That was the cutest part of the movie.
This is another one. Just like Big Hero 6, I want a TV show, but this time, police procedural. Brooklyn Nine-Nine for kids.
I'm asking for Zootopia meets Fillmore.
Yes.
100%, 200%, 300%, yes.
We called it last time. Let's go for 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Zootopia, and like Nick has to be holding up 2 fingers on the poster because he's such a schmuck.
Yeah.
Like, It's Judy giving him bunny ears.
Yes, that's way better. But man, if that a sequel's gonna be just dog shit if somebody's sticking up 2 fingers on the poster.
It's like, really? All right,
guys, I think we got it.
If you, the listener, want us to talk about any other points, send us an email. I would love to discuss this movie more.
Yeah, I want to see it again.
I've been telling everybody I can, like, this movie, it's an important movie.
It's groundbreaking.
Oh, yeah.
It really is. For Disney to go there, Disney has always skirted the issue, has always pretended it doesn't exist.
Yeah, and then, like, accidentally trip over it because they're not looking.
Yeah. And then be like, why is everyone so mad?
Why is everyone so mad at that ear line from Aladdin? Guys, that was the most racist thing I've ever heard!
And the fact that it's a kid's movie is just like, because even adult movies, a lot of them wouldn't even bother.
It's important to put this stuff in front of kids. At least I think it is. Like, we've talked about this before. We're not, child educators. We don't really know anything about that. I wish I did. I think it would add a lot more validity to the stuff we said about, like, how this stuff is affecting kids if we actually fucking knew anything about how those little bastards think. But I like the idea that this is being put in front of the kids and they have the potential to internalize the message of this movie and then realize what it was actually about 10 years later.
My main thought for this is that, like, parents who are older, solidified in their brain ways or stupid are either gonna, one, like, somehow miss it because they just completely write off everything that's not, like, a Breaking Bad or a Throne game. And or two, which is I don't even know if this is better or worse than them not getting it. They fucking go on some fucking right-wing tirade about how the goddamn progressive hippies are brainwashing our children to blah 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 agendas.
They're brainwashing our children to have a problem with cops killing black people in the street.
Like, yeah!
That is a hard sell, sir or madam.
They try. They really try. I see it all the time because my mom won't turn off Fox News.
Stop it, Mrs. Tooch's mom.
Put on something else for the dog to listen to when no one's home.
It's bad for a dog's education.
Thank God that dog can't vote, because she'll go straight for Trump.
Yeah. I mean, you can teach a dog to be racist. It sucks.
Yeah, you can.
They do it. Cops do it. Cops do it. Okay. Yeah. I'm not. It's not that I'm afraid of getting political, because we do get political all the time whenever we can. This is the most political thing we've ever talked about.